Hello. In this video, I want to quickly give you 3 ways in which you can make your life more magical and meaningful. Now, for many years, I've studied human behavior. I've worked as a psychotherapist. I've written books on therapeutic interaction and personal development. And I found kind of a common thread between people who live lives that they'll refer to as magical and meaningful. And I want to share these with you today. So the first is that you need to free yourself from automatic assumptions about how you think life should be. Now, assumptions are necessary for us as humans to proceed through the world. We have to assume that, the sun will rise. We have to assume that the car will get us to work, or otherwise we'd run around constantly fearful and anxious. But some of the assumptions that we have about life are kind of very rigid. They're set in stone, and they're so automatic and deep rooted that sometimes we don't even question them. So being able to step back and say, is the world really the way that I think it has been? So for example, if you say your assumption about the world is that life is hard, that there's some truth to that, but life is hard and life is easy, and things are tough and things are enjoyable. And just starting to free up your automatic assumption about how life is supposed to be. A lot of times we have assumptions about how people should treat us, how life should envelop us and provide for us. So just being able to stop for a moment and say, what am I really assuming about the world around me? What am I really assuming about myself? Because a lot of times these lock us into a way of seeing the world that can become very rigid and very limiting. And magical experiences and meaningful experiences don't always come out of these rigid ways of interacting with the world. So the second way to have a more magical and meaningful life is following your own heart and intuition rather than being directed by a lot of these socially conditioned ways of thinking. I saw an interesting interview with a gentleman who had been a mathematician, and he said for just 2 weeks he went about just privately in his own mind believing that fairies exist, like out in nature. The spirit of the fae are out there. And he said, part of me didn't believe it, but I just wanted to see if I started to believe it. How did I start interacting with nature? How did I start interacting with the world? And he found that his linear way of seeing the world, the real rigid way, it started to, break a little bit because he was, noticed he was talking to trees a little more and paying more attention to the cycles of the nature that were around him. And if anything else, it allowed him to kind of say, well, what if nature was really alive, which it is? What am I doing in my place with having such a socially conditioned way of responding to, I'm alive, nature's dead kind of response. And he talked about this wonderful experience that really changed the way that he saw the world. What if we question a little bit some of the socially conditioned roles that we play, parent and business owner and coach, or whatever these ideas of how you're supposed to do certain things. Like in my own therapeutic work, a lot of times I really try to get therapists that I train and work with and consult with to just let go of some of this rigidity and conditioned ways of doing therapy, because that's what allow real healing to come through. All right, so 3, we release our obsessive need to understand and be in control of life before we actually participate in life. Now, this is something we see, I think, more so in Western culture, that somehow we think understanding of life is going to give us a better life, where a lot of times it actually keeps us from directly participating in life, directly experiencing life. It's like we have set ourselves so back from the direct experience to try and understand it. It's really based in fear, that we want to control as much as possible. So rather than saying, I need to understand everything about dancing and to have a good idea of how long the dance is going to last and, the type of music and other people who are dancing. Sometimes you just dance. You just dance. You just do it because it's in that moment you're actively participating in life. And here's the thing. Life is due to interaction and participation, not merely observation and calculation. So if you will, number one, allow yourself to free up a little bit about your automatic assumptions. Number two, follow your heart, follow your intuition rather than kind of how you think you've been conditioned to respond about the world. And three, release this obsessive need to contextualize and obsess and understand life rather than just jumping in and seeing what'll happen. Now, these are a little easier said than done, particularly when we're so conditioned to respond a certain way. But I really invite you to go through these three and see where have you been a little more rigid and where could you play a little bit. Maybe you want to believe in fairies, or maybe the opposite. Maybe you've been believing in fairies and maybe you want to not believe in fairies. Whatever it is, to give you a little more flexibility, which is totally the most important thing with being able to go back and forth into these magical and meaningful realms of existence. I hope this was helpful, and have fun with this and see where it takes you.